you like to say something about it? Anything?
What is there to say about this song?
I can remember the original demo that you gave to me back in late 2000s on the what was for End of Part 1.
It was about 2009, I think we recorded that. Adam and I were working on some stuff for End of Part 1.
Oh yeah, because it was after the first EP you did, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was after that, and we were working on some demos, and maybe we were going to do some home record, like put them out as home recordings.
Yeah.
And some of the songs were pretty finished. I think that one felt at the time.
Yeah, that felt complete to me.
There's a fondness for that demo, but it was one of those songs where I always felt like it deserved a place somewhere.
He's the one who caused you all this pain. But he's the one who's soothing your broken soul again. Can he see that you need?
And then obviously when we started this project, it was, well, to be fair, we actually put this, if you remember, we were going to record it for All Correct. It was on the
it was in the oven at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were going
to material we were working on,
that.
It got put on the back burner, didn't it?
Yeah, I think I remember. Obviously, Jake was quite fond of the riff, so he quite liked it, and we were like, "Oh yeah, let's do it for that." But then when I was looking at like the lyrical themes for the rest of the album and the flow of the album, we had quite a lot of like slower ballady numbers already on the album. I just thought it was a bit much in that, so I kind of just like pushed it one side, going, "Yeah, we'll probably do that song at some point." So it was quite nice when we obviously started talking about doing Patchwork Memories and bringing back these old songs. That was like quite high up my list of going, okay, cool, let's actually finally bring that song and do it. And then I know we didn't work on the arrangement fully back then, did we? It was after that came out.
Yeah, I can remember because most of All Correct was done and dusted, at least recording wise, sort of late 2022.
Yeah.
And we played Say Something Live for the first time at Portland Arms in Cambridge in June 2023. So it was probably sometime
around then. Because I know
2023 when we got started on it properly.
Yeah. I know Adam obviously played the bass on the original demo version, so he basically already kind of had his parts ready to go.
He was well prepped.
Yeah, and then obviously Jake picks up the main riff that I was originally playing on acoustic guitar on that demo, and I was going to double it up on the acoustic guitar, and then as we did the recording, I remember thinking, I don't think it actually needed the acoustic. It probably might have sounded nice, but I just really liked the blend. But your part was entirely, that wasn't on there.
Yeah, because I'd lived with the demo for a long time as well. Sort of, to me, it kind of felt fully formed as it was, and I didn't know. I knew if I was going to add something to it, it had to be something special and not too distracting from the melody and everything else going on. So it took me a while to find my place in it, and you could sense my frustration at the rehearsals when everybody else was on top of it. I think even Dave had the drums down, didn't he? Because the drums went on.
There's no drums on the original demo either, but I like
everybody else had their place in it, and I was trying to play catch up. At the same time, I wanted it to. I wanted it to be right. I didn't want to just play a bunch of random notes. Just that sounds pretty. That'll do.
Yeah.
To me, it had to kind of capture the vibe of the
song.
And
I think it really did. I mean, I absolutely love that part. Like, there was an electric guitar on that demo, and it was me just playing, I think, 3 notes back and forth. And I think you've kind of gone for it like a similar feel, but elevated it, like created its own. It has its own melody. Before it was just like chiming.
Sort of on the opening when I come in, and then that opening verse, I'm pretty much sort of going down that route myself anyway, with just a bit of sort of basic chiming, just add a bit of extra texture to it.
Yeah, because that's why I think we put the electric on it in the first place. Back then, for that demo, was for texture more than anything else. But I think you've managed to in my opinion anyway, like elevate it just beyond texture. So it's adding that texture. You haven't taken that away, and it keeps that from being, it keeps that bit, those verses interesting, because that main riff otherwise is quite, it's quite repetitive.
Yeah, I kind of took the approach that we did with 25 Tomorrow with that one, whereas I didn't want the guitar wanted the guitar to evolve throughout the track and not just repeat itself.
Yeah.
So I wanted it to sort of build and build and sort of keep it interesting, but at the same time not distract from the lyrical content and the rest of the band's performance.
Yeah.
And that second verse, because there's all that space in there, I wanted to fill it with something sort of dreamy and
I was nervous
ambient.
about that, because that particularly the I guess it's the third verse where there was that, essentially I'm implying that silence, and that's one of my favourite parts, lyrical line parts where there is no lyrics, and I think it's really powerful, and I was really quite proud of that. And I was worried that the extra guitar would somehow spoil that silence, but it doesn't. I think it just moves it along.
Yeah,
really
could have found
nicely.
another home for it if it hadn't have worked out. I would have dropped out of that verse like Dylan, he comes to call, I drop out of a verse.
Yeah.
But
no, I think
I
it's
liked it. So.
yeah, no, I really love it. I think it's really, really nice.
Did you write it sort of after the first End of Part 1 EP, or was it something that had been brewing for a while?
I think no, it would have been after what most of those songs were written, but not by a huge amount. I was writing quite a lot at that time throughout that whole period. So when we then End of Part 1 did 49 Butterflies and a Crow, we were still recording. I was still writing a lot then, and I'm sure it was in those bunches of songs, and it kind of stood out. I mean, I really loved playing it. And what stood out as well, though, is there's one where I would play it to people, and it was one that seemed to garner quite a good response from people. So that sometimes that pushes songs to the surface. You play them, and somebody makes some people's ears perk up, and you go, oh, okay, well. People think maybe other people liked it initially more than I did, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's quite hypnotic, that riff, and I remember you playing that riff, and I really liked it, and can't remember if I said anything about it at the time, but it definitely stood out.
But it's something that I tend to quite often go to. It's something I tend to check the tuning of a guitar with, because I know exactly how it should sound. No, it's when I went to buy. So I went to buy. I remember when I moved to Massachusetts and I didn't have a guitar and I wanted to go buy one. That was definitely one of the songs that I played on these guitars. I was choosing between 2 or 3 guitars and came down to 2, and I kept playing them. And then that was one that I played quite a bit on both of them, and it helped me choose the guitar that I ended up choosing. Which I then ended up writing a lot of songs on for us and later on.
In a way, that riff kind of stands out to me as well, because it feels like something more that I would come up with. It's an arpeggio riff. It's jangly.
I suppose so.
Open. It's kind of very Johnny Marr-esque, and so it feels more like something that I would have, might come up with back in the Aston days or something like that.
No, I see that. I think at the time I'd listened obviously to a lot of Dashboard Confessional and similar sorts of bands, and I think I was really in my head creating something in that vibe, and you can hear that in it, I think. But it's interesting though, in hindsight now, looking back at it, I think you can hear those other influences, and I know that on my playing, your playing has been a big influence. 20 or 25 years of playing in bands with someone, you pick up little habits from other people. I remember stumbling on that riff though, and it hypnotising me. I kept cycling through those 2 things. Then I didn't really know where to take it, so I just basically played 2 chords and then went back, and it just kept in that cycle. And I kept thinking, oh, maybe this needs to go somewhere else. And I definitely toyed around with that a lot, seeing if I could modulate to something and put a proper chorus in. But then I realised that tension and release actually was quite powerful for the tone of the song, and that's something else. So that's when I came up with that refrain, he smiles and you want to scream, and I was like, so that's over those chords. And I thought, what if I actually just then repeat those chords back and forth? And essentially, I quite liked that idea of building blocks. So you've got, the first time that happens, it's almost like a chorus that builds up over the song. So you've got the first line of it, then you have the second line of it, then you have you have the second line of it, the third line of it, then the first line of it, and then the three come together, and you finally have essentially a chorus, which was a unique thing, and that was quite deliberate.
It's not an actual chorus, is there? It's more a refrain, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And so that end section is just the three refrains strung together, and they create and I think and they obviously work nicely together as three lines. But yeah, I was like, well, that's all I need to do. Actually, I can just repeat them at the end,
Sort of
differently.
Dynamic of the song, so it's it builds up some tension, and then it releases it again, and then it builds it up again, and then it kind of drops, and then it's
hits in the face.
Yeah.
I quite like the way it does build like that. And Dave did a really good job with the drum dynamics on it. I was never sure, obviously playing drums myself, we never put drums on that original recording. We were a bit restricted. We were recording those things at Adam's house.
Was that done on 4-track?
No, it was done on the Magic's audio studio that we recorded all the Absent stuff, stuff on, just on a PC. But yeah, this one was done then in those things, and then nothing really came of those, and it just sat lingering on CDs and hard drives until 2025. So hopefully now it's out in the world, people can finally hear it, enjoy it.
Yeah. Was there any particular situation that inspired the lyrical content of the song?
There was one particular friend who was just kept going back and forth to this toxic relationship, and was talking about awkward silences, and obviously I'd experienced some of those myself. Where you don't quite have the plucking up the nerve to kind of say what's on your mind and speak up for yourself and advocate for yourself in a situation. So you just kind of stay silent and allow these things to continue, and then
to boil over.
But then to have someone win you over with the idea in the song of being like a winning smile, but it doesn't have to be a smile. That's just kind of a metaphor, I suppose, for just someone winning you back over and treating you hot and cold, and kind of having conflicted feelings about it. I think that line sums it perfectly. I think he smiles and you want to scream, but his eyes know so that, and I've experienced that myself, and so there was a lot of personal experience in it. The initial inspiration was what someone else had said, and was going through. But I think I did end up putting probably a lot more of my own experiences into it than I realised at the time.
We touched a little on the musical influences. So you mentioned Dashboard Confessional. Was there any sort of other bands or genres at the time that influenced?
Well, the actual chords, I realised the two that I'm arpeggiating are basically taken straight from a Taking Back Sunday song. I hadn't really quite realised it. It's a very, very different song, and it's played very differently. But the actual chords were straight out of the Taking Back Sunday song. I'm trying to think who else I was listening to. I suppose there was a bit of Bright Eyes I was listening to at the time. Counting Crows, obviously, were always been a big influence. And I think vibe-wise, I was trying to go for something like Colourblind by Counting Crows. Like a moment, capturing a moment. There's quite a few songs that I wrote, particularly around that time, where I was trying to capture almost like a photograph of a moment to convey, the feel, how everyone's feeling, and in that moment in time.
Any of those songs inspire you not to have a specific chorus in the song?
Yeah, I think that's a big Counting Crows thing. There's not always a big rousing chorus in their songs. Sometimes it is just a refrain or just I've always been inspired by that. I've talked to you before about Up the Junction by Squeeze. I think it's a brilliant song, and it has no choruses.
It tells a story.
It tells the story. It evolves, and that to me is is a perfect song. It's not and so anything where people have been able to do that, it's just
Bob Dylan does a lot of that, doesn't he?
There's a lot of wonderful music that does that, and I think
you sometimes get like a catchphrase it comes back to, but you're not getting like a 4-line chorus.
No.
So I think sometimes you're telling a story and then you feel, oh, here's the obligatory chorus.
Yeah, exactly.
And that actually it takes away from what the song is trying
especially
to express.
if a verse and maybe leads in perfectly to a chorus, and then you come in back, you now have to kind of structure the same thing again and make that chorus make sense. So particularly if you are telling a story and like each verse or each part of it is moving along in time, the chorus has to somehow work at every single one of those time periods. That when I was saying about capturing a moment, like a chorus then needs to feel like bigger. So actually, if you just sack it off and don't try and do it, sometimes that's actually better.
To its benefit. So the demo version and the band version, do you feel the band version has taken the song somewhere beyond your wildest expectations?
So I think we've captured like the definitive version of the song. I think we captured the mood that I wanted, the vibe that was there, and the essence of that demo is still very much in this final version. And it was a really great song to play live, and I think we did a really good job of capturing how it feels live.
I was going to ask about the live performances we've done so far. So have you got a favourite performance? Because obviously we did a version of the album launch once Dave had departed. But I remember I remember that being a highlight of the set for me at the Portland Arms. And there was the 5 of us.
Yeah, I think that was a really, really good performance.
Sort of achieved some lift off there.
Yeah, that just it felt transcendental there, and it definitely made me, because obviously we hadn't started recording it then. We were just putting it in the set, and I think that was the point where I'm like, no, this is definitely something quite special for us. I think. Live, it just I think the recorded version has captured it really well, but it was just a really live, even without Dave, without the drums, it was still a really great song to play. The album launch with the 4 of us, I still really thought it was another highlight of that set for me as well.
He smiles and you want to scream, but his eyes, they